Hello and welcome back to my channel. I finished Soulswift. It was so good. It was so good. 4 stars, and like a solid 4 stars. So if you want to hear all the details on why I loved it, my little spoiler-free synopsis, grab your coffee, grab your tea, and let's get cozy. Okay, so this was a thick one for me. And for some reason I was like a little stop and go in the beginning. It wasn't smooth sailing. I don't know that it was anything about the story or the writing. I think it was just where I was at and what was going on, but I did finish it and I absolutely loved it. The story is beautiful, the characters are beautiful, the atmosphere is beautiful. Everything was just spot on. There are a couple like nitpicky things that threw me off a little bit. I would say it was just personal taste. So I'm going to go through, I use G from BookRoast's CAWPILE system. So I'm going to go through and let you know what my thoughts were based on each of kind of the sections that we look at. So 1, characters. Obsessed. Obsessed. I love both of the main characters. I love kind of the secondary characters as well. Everybody was really developed. They were nuanced. You got a good sense of their personality, their motivations, internal conflicts. It was all really well developed. I wasn't guessing at anything. We got little sneak peeks of their past and their history as well. You could understand even the people whose actions you didn't necessarily agree with, you could understand what was motivating them to do that, which was really great. There are a couple things character-wise with Gelia, the main character, and I should have looked up pronunciation of that because I'm not sure if that's how everybody else would pronounce it. Her name is spelled Gelya, which this is a YA fantasy book. Subgenre is definitely romance, I would say. But the main character, Gelia, some of her internal conflicts felt a little young for me. It was a little bit hard for me to relate to, but it is a young adult novel. They were dealing with such major themes around religion and spirituality and belief systems that when she had internal conflicts that felt a little youthful, it did throw me off a little bit. It was almost like she was maybe 14, 15, 16, where I would have matched some of the other conflicts with like 21, 22, 23. That makes sense? It just jarred me out a little bit. I can't remember actually what age she was supposed to be. So that's on me. But that was just a small thing that sometimes it would like throw me out, specifically when it came to like romantic interest with the other main character. So characters I thought were really well done. Atmosphere, amazing. Every atmosphere that we found ourselves in, different environments, they were like traveling along the way, was just really well described. You could feel yourself in it. It was well done. How many times am I going to say well done in this review? It was very descriptive. I was in the world. I was there for it every step of the way. The writing was beautifully written, easy to read, did not feel too juvenile as far as like sometimes young adult books do, but it was really enjoyable to read. The plot was great, kept me guessing. It did say on the back of the cover art that you were going to end up in tears. It was heart-wrenching, sob your heart out. I did not cry. I could see why others would. It's been a long time since I have cried after reading a book. Usually the way that the book impacts me is it just sits with me for a while. Like I'll be thinking about it for a week, 2 weeks, sometimes longer, depending how impactful it was, and it kind of just sits in my heart space and resonates with me. But I don't often cry when reading. as far as plot goes, I could see how you could get to that place. It definitely pulls on your heartstrings for sure. Intrigue keeps you guessing. You're definitely not sure what's going to happen. Logic, I dropped it down a couple of points. Oh, so all those so far have been nines. Nines for me on a scale of 0 to 10. 1 to 10. Nines. And then I did drop down logic a little bit to a 7 because of kind of like that internal conflict. I didn't know if that would go under characters or logic. I put it under logic because it popped me out of like, would she really be thinking in this way? And then also, so just one of those things, like when a certain phrase gets you when you're reading, they talked about contractions, grammatical contractions in the beginning so much, like referencing to use your contractions, because Gelia is a translator, so she's translating for the other main character when they're kind of traveling through their journey, and he'll say, can you please use contractions, and or they'll like joke about being contractions, and I think it was a way to like have playful banter between them. Tavik is the other character's name, the other main character's name. But it just started to really irk me, and I got to a point, I posted on Goodreads, if contractions are mentioned one more time, I might scream. It just kept popping me out of the story. Like, what the heck? This is just an example of a sentence on page 139. That's apostrophe s, he corrects me, contractions, remember? It was just felt like it was over and over, and it just kept popping me out. So weird nitpicky thing. I'm sure you guys all have them. It did not knock down the whole book, and then at one point it just stopped and we never heard about contractions again. Somebody on Goodreads had actually been like, oh, maybe it's part of the magical system, and if you don't use a contraction then certain magic comes, and I'm like, ooh, that would definitely make it worth it. That would be really cool. Nothing like that ended up playing out. So for the most part, that just bumped me out. I didn't really get it. It was overplayed. Not a huge deal. I recognize it. I realize it's a me thing, not a book thing, but I still did kind of drop down the logic because it's all about our personal experience with the books, right? Or at least that's the way I approach the book reviews. And then enjoyment was definitely a 9. Loved it. I do love that it's a standalone. Most of the fantasies that I read are trilogies or longer, and so it was really nice to have just a standalone book. It was definitely totally standalone, fully encapsulated. Is that the right word? I don't think so. Everything was tied up at the end. How do I explain this? At the end, you felt complete. You felt fulfilled. You felt like the story made sense and it was over. I do think there's probably a lot more that could be written in this world that I would definitely check out, but it makes sense as a standalone for sure. So that all made it average to an 8.71, which translates to a 4 stars. A couple other notable things is that there was LGBTQ plus representation, sort of. It wasn't in the main character. It wasn't in any of the secondary characters necessarily, but it was just kind of referenced as accepted in the world when they were kind of talking about other characters or romantic relationships. So there was a little bit of representation in the book, which was nice. That's the only other thing to note. So it took me 15 days to read this, and I want to read 5 books in February, so I gotta get going. I gotta get going. I'm reading Nameless right now, which is a shorter one, and then I want to get through these 3. My husband's on vacation this week, so I'm hoping that I can get in some extra reading time, which will be really nice. And then I picked up these 2 books, which I'm super excited about too. So more to come on those. If you've read this, let me know your thoughts. If you're going to check it out, let me know. I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.